All right, everybody, we're back for another episode of What in the World. I'm your host, William. Glad to have each and every one of you here tonight. My special guest tonight is an acclaimed actor. He's also a director and a casting director. His name is Dwight Turner. He's from Kentucky originally. Spent a little time in both the West Coast and the East Coast. Now he's back in Kentucky. Glad to have him on tonight. Dwight, how you doing tonight, brother?
I'm doing good, and thank you so much for having me on again. I did your original show
long time ago.
yes, and a lot has changed since then. And so, congratulations on your new show, and look forward to catching up.
There we go. I lost you for a second there. I don't know what happened.
Oh, right. Can you hear me now?
Oh yeah, we're good. We're good. Can you hear me now? Yeah, you're good now. All right. So that was we were talking about this before we got started. You're one of my favorite episodes I did on the audio years, so I saved it. I actually had it time stamped and everything. It was sometime in 21. I don't remember exactly when. I do know that, and there's actually a reference. We've talked about questions that some of the viewers, from some of the old listeners we had, and some of the new viewers were going to ask. And there's a reference to the talented Mr. Turner was the title of the show. I forgot about it till I pulled it up the other day what the title was. But there's a specific question about somebody that was listening way back then. Has got a question for you tonight. So
sure.
So I tell you what, it's been a while since we talked. You have done about 1 million things since we talked last. I don't even know where to get started. We could talk about boring stuff like how you were an 8-year-old from Kentucky that found your dream on a stage and said you were going to live that dream, and you told your little buddies that I don't care what you say, I'm going to do it anyway. And you ended up in I might get the story all screwed up. Did you leave Kentucky and go to New York first, or
no? So
I know you got some theater mixed in there too. So
yeah, so I went. So where my professional career began was I finished college. I have a BA in communications with a radio television emphasis, and I thought for a while I wanted to be a television reporter, but the acting bug had me. So I literally, the month after I finished college, I moved to LA. And I got a really lucky start. I had joined a little acting class. One of the guys in the acting class had a birthday party. Went to his birthday party. A guy came up to me and said, "Are you an actor?" And I said, "Why, yes." And he was my friend's agent. He gave me a card, said, "Come see me at 3 p.m. on Wednesday." I went to see him at 3 p.m. on Wednesday. He signed me. He said, "I'm going to send you on Friday." So he contacted me back on Friday and said, "I'm going to send you on your first audition." This was my first ever professional audition. And I landed a big national beer commercial. So, and then I was instantly Taft-Hartley'd into the union. So it's a little bit easier to get into SAG-AFTRA now. Back then it was just SAG. And it was like a catch-22. You had to work in a project to join the union, but then of course to join the union you had to work in a project. So but there was the Taft-Hartley, which it meant that if they saw something in you that they wanted above all of the other union people, they could go through a Taft-Hartley process. And that's what happened there. So I was instantly in the union, and I thought, wow, this is really easy. But of course, over time you realize that it's all not completely easy, but it was a really lucky and a really fantastic start.
So what you're saying is, a Roxette reference here, if you've got the look and somebody spots you at the opportune time, this acting thing is easy.
Well, basically there is luck involved. And so I was at the right place at the right time. And yes, somebody saw in me what they thought was going to work perfect for that situation, which happened to be a commercial, and voila, the rest is history.
All right. We might as well work. Let's start working some questions in, because
sure.
We've brought up the look. So this is a look question. I didn't realize I didn't read it all the way through. You might not want to answer this one. it asks, have you had an extensive amount of modeling? I believe I saw you in a print ad for the product, a male enhancement product. I'm not gonna call the product.
So that was not me. I have not done a male enhancement product by any means, but I have done modeling. And what's really interesting, so I'm a professional actor. I sing. I do model. I do voiceover. I'm also a producer, director, and a casting director. The modeling thing is interesting for me because it's not. I don't consider it my main thing, but I'm happy to do it. And in fact, I did a modeling job a while back, and that was just renewed for another year. And this is for Churchill Downs, Newport Racing and Gaming. And so when you do a modeling contract like that and it's renewed, you don't have to do anything else. There's no more work involved, but you get a nice paycheck. So I was very, very thrilled about that, and thrilled that they wanted to use the photos from that shoot for another year. And but no, I did not do a male enhancement.
Sorry, I didn't read it all the way through. I probably should have screened that a little better. All right. Since we're talking about singing, another question. Mr. Turner, listened to your first, this goes back to Word of Wally. Listen to your first interview with William. Wanted to know, with that amazing voice, did you ever seriously think about singing as a career?
Not to the point that it surpasses acting, or some of the other things that I'm very involved with, like casting, directing, voiceover even. Singing is something that I like to do, and if the right opportunities presented themselves, then I would certainly take it seriously. I was cast as a lead in a musical, and that was my first musical, so being cast as a lead was a little intimidating. But because of COVID, that show was put on hold. You can Google, or you can go to like Apple Music or Spotify and type in my name, and songs come up from the cast album that we did at the time. But maybe eventually that show will go forward.
Okay. That's what I was fixing to ask you. Did they shut it completely down?
For now, it's on hold, and this happens. But who knows? At some point, it may move forward. I would like to see it move forward, and I'd say stay tuned on the singing things. Who knows what might happen in the future?
Got another one here. So we're talking about your voice. Let's see. Here's our guy. The guy I was telling you about before we got started. The guy.
Okay.
He said, "Hey, I'm from." Can't make out, somewhere in Alabama. Some Indian sounding word. I don't know. Sorry, Native American sounding word. Sorry. Somewhere in Alabama. He says, "Hey, my name's Jeremy. I'm from wherever he said in Alabama. Listen to your very first interview with William. Wanted to know, you say you're from Kentucky. I don't hear it." I'm assuming he is questioning your birth.
Yeah. Well, this is how I grew up talking like this. I mean, I grew up in Hansford, Kentucky, and there's a big old accent there. But when I decided that I wanted to pursue a professional acting career, I knew that I would be very limited if I did not get rid of the accent. And so that's what I did. Now that I have been back in Kentucky for a while, it does start to come back a little bit, just because I'm constantly surrounded by people who have accents. The accent in the Louisville area, which is where I currently am, is not as pronounced as Southeastern Kentucky by any means, but there's still an accent, definitely. And I don't want people to take it wrong. I was not ashamed of my accent in any way. I just did not want to be pigeonholed into a small set of possibilities as compared to getting rid of the accent and having a large amount of opportunity.
How difficult is that? Because I mean, I've been trying to get rid of my accent for 50 years now.
Well, for me, it actually was not that difficult. And I did not get rid of the accent by hiring a coach. I got rid of the accent by watching the news on television.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. That's a weird technique, but I guess it worked. Because I'm telling you, you could tell me you were from Kentucky and I wouldn't believe it. I don't hear, and I don't, first of all, I'm from the deep South and I'm proud of it, but I have a pretty distinct accent. I've been told I don't hear it, but I mean, because I'm around it all the time. Everybody around me sounds like this.
Well, what's really interesting is, so friends of mine who live in LA, they hear the change now that I've been back here. They hear Kentucky coming back in a little bit. But when I lived in California, unless people asked, I will always tell them, people assumed that I grew up in California. And listen, I love California. California is a wonderful state in so many ways, but I also love Kentucky. And it's like it's like a scale. Like there's certain things that are wonderful here, certain things are wonderful there, certain things not so wonderful here, certain things not so wonderful there. But luckily, because of what I do, I can have the opportunity to work in New York, work in LA, work in Kentucky, work in Atlanta. And I enjoy that because I love to travel.
We actually have a YouTube listener has a question for you. I'm gonna go ahead and put it on the screen where everybody can see it. Carl Trier, maybe is how you pronounce that. Treier, who was Dwight's best friend in college.
Oh my gosh! Wow. Well, that's quite a question.
I'm wondering, was it Carl, and he's upset that you haven't already said that? I don't know. So.
Actually, in all honesty, I know Carl, and I know I went to college with his wife.
Okay, I'm assuming I butchered his last name, right?
It's Trier.
Trier. Of course it is. Sorry, Carl. I apologize for that.
So I guess I'm sort of obligated at this point to say like it was her, but I mean I surround myself with groups of friends, and I have a small circle of extremely close friends. Okay. And that's kind of been the way I've done it throughout my entire life. I have lots of people that I know, and a small circle of friends.
So that's your wolf pack.
Exactly.
All right. So okay. I'm glad you brought that up because I have a question now. What were you always like that? Like when you were growing up, you had this very tight knit group of friends and you kind of roll with them up to a certain point in your life, and then high school hit and you became cool and popular, and it was a whole different clique of folks. And of course, college, everything changes in college.
Yeah, I think generally, I like people. I like people. I always have. It's probably part of why I became an actor. I like people. I like all kinds of different personalities. It's just fascinating to me. And whenever, I'll even kid with my friends sometimes. Like recently, I was around a group of teachers, and they were talking about different things, and I was kidding with them and saying, if I ever end up playing a teacher, I'm going to use this. So me personally, I think that you have a core within you. And for me, I don't think that has changed tremendously over the years. I've changed somewhat, but I still think I'm somewhat the same person that I was many years ago, or even when I was younger. Yeah.
All right. So first of all, Carl, thank you for the question.
Yes, thank you, Carl.
Second of all, you just told me you were around this large group of teachers. I wish I'd have known they could have taught you where the Mason-Dixon line is. We had a fervent discussion before we got started tonight, folks, about the Mason. I said, what side of the Mason-Dixon line? We were discussing north and south, and he said, I don't know. He said, what is Mason-Dixon line? Where does it even go? And he had to Google it.
But now, Wally, did you know?
I knew it went through the state. I just didn't know. Here's
exactly
my problem.
Where. Well, that's kind of similar to me.
Here's my
had
problem.
An idea of where it was, but I didn't know exactly.
Now, to be fair to me in this argument here, I have no idea where Hazard, Kentucky is at. So it wouldn't have done me any good to know where the Mason-Dixon line went through Kentucky.
So
I'm assuming Hazard is an enormous community, right?
Hazard is a small community, and it is in southeastern Kentucky. And it is in the mountains, and for many years it was very isolated. It is still somewhat isolated, but with the internet and newer roads, it is more accessible. But yeah, it's it's a beautiful place to visit. It's an interesting place to visit. If you want to get away from things and go like to the mountains, think of it as like a mini Smoky Mountains.
Okay.
What
would that actually be? What that'd be is that the Blue Ridge?
It's the Appalachian Mountains.
Oh, Appalachian.
And so.
Oh yeah, that's right. Appalachian Trail. Yeah. You're right.
Yeah. So you're going to have beautiful spring, summer, and fall, and pretty when it snows.
It's an interesting little getaway place. Or another scenario, possibly you might want to be cast in a movie by Dwight Turner and show up.
Well, and let's get into some of that. So
hey, knock on his door at 4:00 in the morning with donuts. Go, come on, man! I thought we was casting a movie here.
So FYI for everyone out there who listens to this. So I do have a couple of projects coming up where I am going to be looking for people for casting. The best way for those out there who are interested in being in front of the camera is to just follow me on social media. Just look for Dwight Turner on Facebook, Instagram, X, formerly known as Twitter, LinkedIn, Threads. Look on all of those and follow me. I will be posting links at certain points for people to follow those links to apply for these projects. And some of the postings will probably be specific and some may be more widespread just to, for people interested in being in my casting database. But one of those projects is going to be filming in Kentucky, and that's going to be starting generally around mid-January. So it's not too far away. So once again, if you're interested in casting for any of these projects, follow my social media. I will be posting links on there. And also, speaking of shows, right now for me in front of the camera, I have a series that's currently airing called Terror Lake Drive. It's a horror series. I have a recurring role. I'm in 3 episodes on that, playing a not so nice ranger. And you can find that on AMC's All Black channel. And so if you don't have it already on your cable, you can subscribe to it. And that is currently airing now, season 3. And so check it out.
Well, that answered Keisha's question. Keisha asked, were you part of that project? Yes, you are.
Oh, so she knew about that project?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yes. And actually that was filmed in Atlanta. It was a nice experience. We filmed in some really beautiful areas down there, and one of those was actually we were on location in Stone Mountain, and so it was very. I ultimately I almost always enjoy all the projects that I work on, and I like Atlanta. There's a lot happening there. So I always enjoy going down to Atlanta to work on things. Another thing that I wanted to mention, Wally, let me know if I'm getting ahead.
Come on, big man. No, come on. Oh, what's so weird? I do have one quick Stone Mountain reference here. Robbie from Stone Mountain wanted to know, did you play Benny in 1,000 Ways to Die? I think he got the name wrong, but you were in 1,000 Ways to Die.
I was, yes, I did star on an episode of 1,000 Ways to Die, and it's interesting because, I'm recognized from various things. A lot of people, Chicago Fire, because Chicago Fire is a very popular show.
Right. The doctor.
Yeah, playing Dr. Thomas Mabery on that show, Otis's doctor. With 1,000 Ways to Die, that has a huge cult following. And so I do get recognized from time to time for 1,000 Ways to Die. Now, I will tell you this. What was interesting is when I auditioned for that show, I came away from that audition thinking that I had done just a terrible audition. And I even called up, and this is honest to goodness the truth, I called up a friend of mine and said, well, I didn't get that. And then I got it. Another interesting tidbit from that show was they shoot 2 episodes a day, and the first episode involved insects. And some of these insects got loose, and they couldn't catch them all. So when it came time to film in the studio, the next episode, which was mine,
you found
there were some insects running around.
Yeah, you found them in the second episode. All right, so Lenny was your character.
Lenny, that's
Lenny
correct.
Was your not Benny. Hey, sorry, Stone Mountain.
It was close. Benny, they sound the same.
I don't know if you know Lacey, but Lacey said, "Hey, Dwight, that's my brother from another mother."
Oh, thank you, Lacey. So I do know Lacey. So China Lacey is actually part of the group Lincoln Bridge that they were the runners up for America's Got Talent.
Okay.
Yeah. And what's you were asking me about singing a little while ago. What's really interesting is China and I were at a charity event recently, and he started singing, and I joined in, and he was like, I think he was like a bit surprised. He was like, whoa, wait a second, you didn't tell me you could sing. So, getting back to the singing for a second, who knows if anything is going to happen with that. But listen, I've had stranger things happen. Look, I'm a casting director now, and that was never expected. So
that's right.
I
do have, and we'll move away from music after this question, because I saw this one. I got to ask it because I didn't even think about this till it was mentioned. It says, "Hey, couldn't help but notice the resemblance. Would you be related to Lance Bass of the boy band NSYNC?"
Lance
Bass. I've never even realized that, but I mean, I guess so. I mean, if he was older, you're only what, 30 years old, but
29. No.
20.
So here's the thing. No, as far as I know, I'm not
Lance
related.
Bass is actually from Mississippi, which is where I'm broadcasting out of.
Yeah. So as far as I know, there's no relationship there, but it's interesting because I do get Lacey's chiming in and saying yes, really surprised at the singing. But it's interesting who people think that I resemble. So I do get different things from time to time. Just days ago, someone asked me, they were like, has anyone ever told you that you resemble a young Chevy Chase? And so I got the other day. Yeah, I know. So, you get different things from time to time. I think that's probably the first time that I've gotten Lance Bass, but I
can't wait for Lance to get 4 or 5 years older, and I'm going to make the side by side to see how close it is.
There you go. Yeah.
Sir, I am not in any way asking this. Lacey is asking this. Lacey said you should have him sing.
Oh,
I'm not asking for it. Lacey and the world is asking for it.
It's very clear our love is here to stay, not for a year. Okay, that's it.
A little Frank Sinatra going on there. Go ahead.
So thanks, Lacey, for chiming in there.
Let's bring it all back in now. Bring it all back in.
Yeah. So Lacey and I met. We were both doing charity work for a wonderful organization in Louisville called basically what this organization does is they help children who are suffering from cancer, from various illnesses, and going through really hard times. And the wonderful thing about this organization is they help these kids live their dreams. So let's say the kid wants to go to Disney World or Disneyland, or they want to visit Yosemite, or they want to experience something that they might not otherwise get to experience. This organization is something that can help those kids to fulfill those dreams. And they asked me to be a part of it for an event called Celebs, Forks, and Dreams, which happened at a fantastic restaurant in Louisville called Vincenzo's. And both Lacey and I, as well as some other celebrities, were celebrity waiters for this event. And it was a fantastic experience. And then just the other day, they had their Christmas party. And I, along with Lacey, China Lacey, we went and we got to visit with all of these children that had been helped by this charity. And that was really something to see. I also went down to Tennessee recently for SAG-AFTRA, because I'm now on the board for SAG-AFTRA Nashville. And I went down and we went caroling at the VA hospital, but also for the School of the Blind. And the School of the Blind, the children there are so attuned to music because, you know, your other senses get increased when you lose one. And it was so wonderful to see their reaction to the music that we were singing. I was there with a lot of country western musical stars, and it was there's just something about helping kids and seeing smiles on their faces. It warms my heart, and I expect nothing in return.
That's a fantastic story. Donnell Gastineau wants to say hey to Dwight from fans in Ohio.
Well, thank you so much, and thank you for tuning in. And
I told you were worldwide. You didn't believe me, man. All right, so I do have a quick question here. Just curious. Sure. It says, just curious. Knew you grew up. It says, heard you grew up in Kentucky. When did you make the move to stardom? I'm assuming that means move to California. So
I moved from Kentucky right after I finished college, and I'm not going to say the year.
Well, we've already determined you're only 30 years old.
A while ago. Yeah. But I will say this, where my professional career began was actually, as I mentioned earlier, shortly after I moved. I was lucky enough to be able to join the union early on. For my very first professional audition.
So I'm saying it was easy. You said it was.
Well, I mean, it was an easy start. It was a lucky start, an easy start. I wasn't saying that everything is easy, because, you know, any career in the arts, you know, when you're not at a 9-to-5 job behind a desk, you know, it comes in waves. You experience ups and downs, and you have to like that. You have to like that lifestyle, like in order to really enjoy it. But yeah, I'm very appreciative for all of the successes that I've experienced. Has it the entire career been easy? No, there, you know, ups and downs. Sometimes you get experience frustrations when you do not get cast in something that you really wanted to get cast in. Or something doesn't quite go as expected. But for the most part, I absolutely love what I do. It's been a wonderful experience, and I wouldn't change it for anything.
On that same line about making a transition, leaving college, going to California, you grew up small town Kentucky, went to college, and then you left college and went to California, the chaos of California, and now you're back in Kentucky. are you excited to be back home, or do you miss the California nights? Or, I mean, because I know that's like leaving the Waltons, it's like the Beverly Hillbillies going to California. First of all, I'm country myself. I'm not disrespecting country folks, but I'm just saying that's got to be like the Beverly Hillbillies going to California initially.
Well, okay. So first, let me say this, and I kept thinking DreamWorks because I have DreamWorks in my head because of the studio, but it's Dream Factory Louisville is the charity organization that's helping the kids. I just did want to mention that name. I for some reason had DreamWorks in my mind a minute ago, but it's the Dream Factory Louisville. LA is very different from Kentucky, but I am the type of person, I'm obviously I'm an actor, so I'm very adaptable. I really didn't have that much difficulty moving between the two, moving back. I mean, I still have vast connections in LA. I have connections in New York. I have connections in Miami and Orlando and Atlanta, in Nashville, all these different places. So it's even though I'm back here, I'm still very connected to LA.
But it's still a slower pace, though.
It is a slower pace, and I appreciate it because I know what the faster pace is. Right. Like right now, I have a lot going on in my life. There's a lot coming up. So I'm kind of very busy, very scrambling. So it doesn't feel so laid back and peaceful at the moment. And that can happen in today's world, wherever you are. But go ahead.
Because
I was just going to say,
got a great question just popped up. You got to answer this one. So,
but I do miss the ocean. I do, because I lived in Santa Monica. Mm-hmm. On 14th Street, I'd ride my bike 3 or 4 days a week up and down the bike path at the beach. I miss the ocean. I miss the vast number of industry folks as well as industry events that happen in LA as compared to here. There are fun events that happen here, and there are certainly industry folks here, but it's not the same amount as in LA. Yeah. But Kentucky has $75 million in incentives each year that is happening now in the state of Kentucky. And so it's drawing in a lot of projects, a lot of entertainment, industry people. And it's exciting to see what's happening here. And it's growing at a very fast rate. 13 more projects were just approved by the state for the incentive program, and those incentives are paid out at 30 and 35%. So if a project comes here to Kentucky, they can literally get back 30 or 35% of their costs, and that's a big deal.
Yeah. All right, so we're going to talk about the industry, like where it stands right now, the strike, all that kind of stuff in just a second. But Ryan has a really good question, because we were just talking about how fortunate you were to get started, and you've been pretty consistent, pretty steady. But he has a really good question. It says, let's see, let me pull it up here. Ryan, I don't know if that's Bayer or Bayer, says, what was your longest dry spell as an actor?
Oh my gosh. COVID. When COVID was happening, I lost a number of projects that never actually came back, because when a project goes down and they lose the money, then it's like, are they going to get that again to do it? So there's a lot that goes into that. But I lost a film project and a modeling project when COVID happened, and then everything just stopped. So COVID happened for a while, and let's hope that we never have to go through that again. But yeah, and Wally, that is weird. When I originally did the interview with you,
that's right.
During COVID.
Thank God for COVID, because I was able to talk to big timers.
Thank God for COVID.
Yeah, it was so weird, because I really, honestly, I had people on my original show that, and I'm just going to be honest. I mean, me and you would have probably never crossed paths if it wouldn't have been for COVID and me reaching out and you being available.
Well, I that was my dry spell. I did 35 interviews.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I got a chance to talk to folks that, in the infancy of my show, I'd have never had an opportunity to speak to if it wouldn't have been for COVID. I mean, yeah. You guys were really desperate to get your face out there. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I was sitting at home, not going anywhere, and I'm like, I can do this online, and I just did interview after interview.
So you said COVID. I got a question because COVID, and I don't want to sound disrespectful by saying this, but COVID in the real world and COVID in La La Land is two different sets of COVID. Okay, for example, COVID where I'm at, I don't know that it ever happened. Like I went to work every day during COVID, but see what I'm saying? I know they shut y'all completely down. So what was COVID for the acting world? Like how many?
Well, for the industry, certain protective rules were put into place, and those rules varied depending upon what the state rules were. So the state that you were in, so California and New York, because those had big cities where there were a lot of people getting sick, those were more restrictive than, let's say, where you are, or even Kentucky. So I was in Kentucky, which was less restrictive, and I was talking to friends in New York and California, where things were more restrictive, and it's like. I mean, let's hope that nothing like that ever happens again.
it was pretty impressive. Now, I mean, I know larger areas where it was almost, it was Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome in certain areas. That's where it was getting. So, all right, now let's talk about the current status of the industry. You went through the SAG strike.
Yes.
So you sir, during the strike, spent a month in Europe. But let's talk about how the strike and all played out.
I did, and we can talk about that. Wonderful. Well, it was 18 days.
18 days in Europe.
Let's talk about that first. So, basically, there was a period during the strike where I had nothing to do at that point. And so a friend of mine that I've known for years, so I worked at Warner Brothers Studios. He worked for the Foreign Press. And now all he does is purchase multi-million-dollar properties around the world. And he said, you're on strike, come out to Europe and stay at my multi-million-dollar places for free. How could I say no? So
I don't know how you could say no.
I know. So I was in France, Belgium, Germany, and Denmark, and it was amazing. I've traveled a lot. I've been to 24 countries in every state except Alaska. But I always, like I said earlier, I love to travel. I've been so busy. I've only managed to post day 2 of the 18 days so far. What I'm eventually going to do is just do an album and put a link online, because I'm just not going to have time to keep posting all the various days. But it was a wonderful experience. Now, getting back to the strike. So I was elected into SAG-AFTRA for the board. So I am on the board for SAG-AFTRA Nashville. The president of SAG-AFTRA Nashville, Carla Cristina Contreras, she was actually on the negotiating committee for the strike. So she was in LA with the negotiating committee, hashing out the two different sides hashing out the contract, which was eventually ratified. So at this point, the contract has been ratified, and we have all gone back to work. And there are a lot of projects that are beginning to happen because they were just waiting for the strike to complete. Did we get everything that we wanted on the SAG-AFTRA side? No. Did the AMPTP get everything they wanted? The producers? No. But what you have in any situation like this is a compromise where the two sides finally come together and agree enough to form a contract that then gets voted on, which in this case the SAG-AFTRA members voted on this contract and said yes to it. I work on both sides of the industry. I'm a professional actor, but I am also a producer, director, and casting director. So I've worked in front of and behind the camera. I see both sides very clearly, but I do think that the strike was justified. And I'm happy to see that.
What were some of the biggest sticking points that was holding this whole process up?
Well, there were various points. One of those was pay. And a lot of people, I think they have a misunderstanding. They think like, oh, you're an actor, you're making millions of dollars.
Yeah.
The thing
you
about
it, spend 18 days in Europe. I'm just gonna put that out there. So
thanks, Wally.
I'm just saying. I mean, it's hard for you to argue this point after spending 18 days in Europe. But go ahead.
Where I didn't have to pay for a single place to stay.
Oh, well, there you
go.
See, there you go. It's nice having connections, right?
Yes, it's nice having connections. So when you are a star of a major project, a major motion picture, or a major television series, yes, you are bringing in lots of money. If you're doing very popular commercials on a regular basis, like Flo from Progressive, you're making lots of money.
James is my favorite, but go ahead.
If you are just a regular working actor, you are not making vast amounts of money. And if you are a background actor or a day player, then you're not making that much money. And most of those people are generally working other jobs to compensate their pay. So what this was an attempt to bring this to a point of where people could have a living wage, where people who are working in the industry on a regular basis can live off of that. It had gotten to a point of where the studios, and over time it has turned into more of a business, but the studios were looking at how they could cut corners, how they could pinch pennies. And a lot of times what that was coming down to was the actors, not the main stars, but the other actors. Now, what you have in the entertainment industry is you have a lot of people who have dreams, right? And so if you have people who have dreams and are willing to do what they feel that they need to do to achieve those dreams, then there's a possibility of taking advantage of that and not paying them a lot of money and so on and so forth. So so that was a big part of this contract, was to help rectify the situation of pay. To give you another example, there's a difference in pay between working on a syndicated series or working on a streaming series. So one's on television, on, like, say, NBC, for instance. The other is on a streaming service, say Tubi or Netflix or something. And so, to give you an example, and this is a personal example. So when I did Chicago Fire, for instance, I get residuals. I got paid very well. When I worked on a show that's on a streaming service, I got paid decently, but no residuals.
Right.
And so, this was an attempt to rectify the situation, because obviously streaming has become the wave of the future.
As far as everything's headed to streaming. I can see why you're fighting at this point. So
yeah, and things need to be adjusted accordingly. Other things involved, what AI was a big thing, for instance, because AI is becoming so advanced that there is a real concern of it replacing performers. But one of the big things that kind of set this off in part was the studios were wanting to take background performers, pay them one day's wage, which for background is not a lot, scan them, and then use that forevermore without paying them again. And that's not right, because one, that takes away their ability to work if they're not needed because they've been scanned. And so what this contract helps to do is to rectify that situation, so that if you do agree to be scanned or used in AI, that you are compensated in a way that you would be if you were actually there performing, because they're using your likeness, and those are two of the biggies. There are others, but luckily we were able to come to an agreement, and let's hope that another strike does not happen for a long time. But this strike was very historic because it was in conjunction with the WGA, the Writers Guild, and it was a very long strike.
Yeah, Hollywood essentially shut down for a while.
Yes, and
it was a self-imposed COVID.
Yes. Yeah. And so because I was here, I wasn't part of a lot of what was happening in, like, let's say LA and New York or even Atlanta. But I did go down and participate in some various things that had happened in Nashville.
I saw you smattered across social media. All right. We have covered a ton of stuff. You have been very cordial with all these crazy questions that I've been asking y'all tonight. I'm glad to see that your fan base showed up and showed out. And you, as Lacey said, little Frank Sinatra was not expecting that tonight at all. All right. So one last time, run through your most current projects that you got going on that you can speak on.
Oh, okay.
If you want to drop a breaking news, the floor is yours. And then, of course, social media, how to get in touch with you, all that kind of stuff.
So if you just look for my name, Dwight Turner, on, like I said, Facebook, X, formerly known as Twitter, Instagram, Threads, and LinkedIn. Those are the main ones that I use. And if you follow me on those, I'm going to be posting some links for upcoming casting projects that I'm working on. That is going to be the best way to keep track of opportunities that are going to be happening pretty soon. As far as what's airing for me right now, look for Terror Lake Drive on AMC's All Black channel, and I'm on a 3-episode arc of that. Like I said, playing a not so nice ranger. Some other things that have happened since you saw me last time. I did a film called The Contradictory Couple and starred in that, and that won Best Picture at Louisville's International Festival of Film. That was very exciting. 'Tis the season. You can probably see this backdrop behind me. We got some Christmas stuff up. I did a Christmas movie since I talked to you last, and that's called Anything But Christmas, where I play a not so nice attorney that wants to get rid of the word Christmas in Christmas. So you can find that on various streaming services. And a very exciting project that I'm working on the producing and directing side of things is called Rep. We're still filming. That Rep is short for representative, and it deals with our freshman state representatives. So I have been following freshman state representatives and doing interviews, and it's been a just completely fascinating experience, because usually this is a closed circle, and they've kind of opened that up a bit and allowed me to kind of show people what it is like to become and to be a freshman state representative. And
in the life of a political pundit. Awesome.
It's absolutely, I think what we have so far is really fascinating. And I think people who are interested in seeing what it's like, that process is like, I think are going to be completely fascinated by this.
There's no way there's more notes. You have covered a million things.
There are actually more notes, but I'm trying to decide what else.
Look, it's real simple. Follow him on social media. He'll have all of it listed. I told you, you guys did not believe me. He's a big timer. He's got a million things going on. 2 last quick questions before we get out of here. One, is Dwight Turner your real name?
It is.
It is your real name. That's not your stage name. All right, Jenny, you heard that. It's his real name. what did you expect? Dwight Turner. That sounds very Kentucky. All right. And oh my gosh, how did I miss this one? Which you might have already answered this. Have you ever starred in a Hallmark movie?
I have not. And what's really interesting.
So the Christmas movie is not a Hallmark movie.
It's not a Hallmark movie. And I have been asked that so many different times because people are like, have you done a Lifetime or a Hallmark movie? Because I guess they think I would be right for it. But I have not. At this point, I have not done a Hallmark or a Lifetime project. Now, I have done projects that are somewhat similar, but none that were actually Hallmark or Lifetime.
All right. So reach out to Hallmark. Tell them that they can film in Hazard, Kentucky. And if you're looking for a 50-something-year-old, grumpy, old, bald-headed, Caucasian neighbor, I'm your guy.
There you go.
There you go.
Well,
look, you got one spot cast already. There you go.
Perfect.
Right. Thank you. I can't thank you enough, brother. I'm glad that your fan base showed up and showed out tonight. I've had a blast talking to you again. We've bounced back and forth conversation wise, but it was nice to actually talk for an extended period of time tonight. So, well, Dwight, I wish you all the luck, brother. And of course, I'll keep Facebook stalking you, keeping up with all your stuff you got going on. And I do appreciate you coming on tonight.
Absolutely. And thank you for welcoming me back. And it was nice to be here.
Hey, and anytime you want to come on here and drop breaking news, I've told you the door is always open. So,
and just a last word, I just want to say, everybody, happy holidays, Christmas, Hanukkah, whatever you celebrate, have a wonderful holiday season. And let's look forward to an awesome 2024.
Amen to that, brother. I can't say anything besides that, except that's all for tonight, folks, and we'll see you guys on the next one.